So today I get to talk to Gábor Somlyai. He studied as a molecular biologist in Hungary, his native country. He has been the main pioneer in the development of deuterium research since the late 1980s. He is the author of the book Defeating Cancer, which already appeared in the year 2000. In 2022, he published Deuterium Depletion, a New Way in Curing Cancer. This is about his more than 30 years of experiential research, written in an accessible manner for both laymen and doctors and patients. In the meantime, more than 40 scientific reports have been published with his name, and he has initiated 4 international conferences on deuterium. To support the ongoing research, the production of the medically registered product for animals called Vetera Deuterium Depleted Water was established, and also Preventa Deuterium Depleted Water for humans. What can also be said is that he is a very accessible person whom we can always turn to with questions related to a patient's treatment in combination with deuterium depleted water. In addition, we can contact his laboratory for measuring our actual physical deuterium content before and after a deuterium depleted water cure. So listen to the insights of this forerunner in science called deuteronomics, the revolutionary innovation in medical biochemistry. Let me give you a very warm welcome in this online meeting.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very honored by your presence and your willingness to talk about your professional career, which is concentrated around the element of hydrogen in the form of deuterium. Yep. And as you know, I am not a medical expert, nor a professional in the medical sense, nor a chemist, but I'm a very curious person, and I'm very interested in natural health and well-being, and I'm working daily with the qualities of water. And I think most people can relate to that. So this is the level of knowledge and consciousness you are dealing with today in this conversation, which means, I think, that we will aim to translate your knowledge and your wisdom to our knowing and understanding of the daily practices of consuming water and special water qualities, or special water quality like deuterium depleted water, of course, and helping us to help our cells and our cellular energy for vital health. And last but not least, I would like to pay attention to our possibility to change the view on how to deal with the growth of cancer, which is far too common nowadays. Yeah. And I would like to note as well that your research is also very useful for health professionals. So this is our first live conversation, even though we had many email contacts, because you appeared to be very available and helpful for people with questions. And we will both be speaking in a second language, which is
yes,
a challenge, but I'm sure we will manage just fine.
Yeah, I try to do my best.
Yeah, me too. We'll give it our best. Yeah. And I was postponing talking to you live because I wanted to study as best as I could before being able to ask the right questions, questions that that are not too annoying for you as an absolute expert on the topic. And I did study your books. I read them, but I only got so far in understanding it because I also tried to translate it straight away in Dutch, so I could. For the clients of Nieuw, that don't take the time to read the book or don't feel comfortable
Background
with
to
English language.
yeah.
And especially when you are ill, it is not very likely that you feel like reading difficult subjects. So I will continue this study anyways, because it is so relevant for modern people, for their lifestyle choices and their water and food consumption. So again, welcome, Gabor. And to start with, I would ask you, as a young man, you chose biology to study.
Yeah.
And why did you choose that direction?
Yeah, this choose related to the cancer. And I think the reason was that one of our neighbor was diagnosed with cancer. And as a child, I saw that his history, and it was very bad to see. And at that time, the adults, my parents, and all they were talking about cancer. And for a child, it was obvious that this is something very serious. And it was very sad to see how the people suffered from cancer, suffered from the treatment. And at the end, unfortunately, he died. And I think that was the reason that I moved to that direction to
you were still
biology.
a child. You were not even a young man yet. You say...
I was a teenager, I guess. It was in the early 70s at that time. And the molecular biology started at the early 70s. And then I read a book about the molecular biology, so the DNA, the genetic engineering started at that time. And it was clear that if we really want to solve that very serious problem, we should find a solution on that level, on the gene and the gene expression, the genes and molecular biology and biochemistry level. And this is the reason I moved to that direction.
So you found your mission already very early. You got
yeah, if we can say that, yeah, it was quite clear at that time.
Yes. And then how did you get into the study of deuterium?
Yeah, there was another interesting point that Albert Szent-Györgyi, who is one of the Hungarian Nobel laureate, he discovered the vitamin C in the early 70s, gave an interview when he visited Hungary. And in that interview, he mentioned one word that was submolecular. So he was a very clever guy, and he supposed at that time that it's impossible that huge proteins would be responsible to organize the living organism. He supposed that must be some very small and very fast particle which can do that. And Albert Szent-Györgyi suggested that should be the electron, which is a negatively charged part of the atom. And I kept it in my mind that to find the cancer, the way to cure cancer, we have to go to submolecular level. And that submolecular level, he suggested electron. And one day the idea came to my mind that the hydrogen ion could be that submolecular particle. And then I make a note. That was in 1976, May 21st. And I wrote down that for the cancer, the hydrogen ion can be responsible. And I kept it in my mind. And 4 years later, I was a student at the university on biology faculty, and I was preparing myself for an exam. And the other idea came to my mind that there is a heavy hydrogen, it's called deuterium. And then I was 100% sure that the life is organized by the deuterium hydrogen ratio.
The deuterium hydrogen ratio, yes, that's what we get into as well, because in fact we have hydrogen. Can you explain what is deuterium?
So the deuterium is a heavy hydrogen. The hydrogen mass number is 1. The deuterium mass number is 2, because the positively charged proton has a neutral positron, neutron. A neutron. So this is
neutron, yeah.
yeah. And because that 100% mass differences between the hydrogen and deuterium. These two hydrogen behaves very different in chemical reaction. So it is called isotopic effect. It is well known, and several paper has been published when they tested the effect of heavy water on different biological system. So a plant, for example, will not grow if they are watered with heavy water, or we can kill a dog with a heavy water over 35% of heavy water concentration. So it means that for a living organism, it is very important what type of hydrogen is present in a chemical reaction, in the hydrogen bond, in the DNA, or what is the hydrogen-deuterium ratio to keep the structure of a given protein. So this is the reason that, so it was well known. The interesting question is why nobody investigated the possible role of the naturally occurring deuterium in the living organism.
Yes,
because
sorry, I interrupted.
No problem. So everybody investigated the effect of heavy water, but they ignored that the presence of the deuterium, which is everywhere.
Yes, and also to understand the importance of deuterium's presence, it's easy to comprehend when you compare it to other compounds in the blood serum, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so what I mentioned, that the calcium level is 2.5 millimole, and the deuterium is 13 millimole. So 6 times higher the deuterium concentration than the calcium in the blood.
Yeah.
And that was a question what I addressed, so we cannot ignore that.
And magnesium, also very known, very important mineral. If you compare the
it's about 1 millimole. So it's
one.
Yeah.
So deuterium is how many times more?
It's a tenfold increased between the concentration.
Yes. So what I wonder also, if nature provides in deuterium, yes, and nothing is in nature is irrelevant or let's say irrelevant. So what are the benefits of deuterium in life?
I would say that if several billion years ago, when there was a big boom and the whole universe appeared, if no deuterium in the universe, then wouldn't be the life so complex, which is complex it now, because the bacteria can live without deuterium, and even they are able to tolerate almost 100% heavy water concentration. But the organisms like humans, animals, plants, they require the presence of deuterium, because the deuterium hydrogen ratio has a very important role in the management of the gene expression, in harmonizing the 2000 different biochemical processes. So I would say that without deuterium, the life would be a more simple, a more earlier stage. The whole evolution would have stopped in an early stage, and that living organisms like us wouldn't have developed.
So these are interesting words, development and evolution. So deuterium has a role in that, but it has to be limited also in a way in cell metabolism.
Yeah, this is what I say. So for a ordinary people, I always say that if we think about that, each cell has a nucleus which contains the DNA. So the size of this nucleus is about 10 micrometer, which is pretty small. It means 100 part of the 1 millimeter. It's extremely small. But that nucleus contains the DNA, which length is 1.8 meter length. So
if you
can
would
you imagine?
it.
Yeah, it is like me. It's all like tall. So it is the DNA is packaged into that small nucleus. And the DNA is encoding about 20,000, 25,000 genes. And these genes encode everything. how long we will live, what type of disease we can get, our hair color, and everything. It is encoded there. And that information cannot be organized, and the collaboration between that 25,000 genes cannot be organized with that whole big molecules, what Sergio said. That should be organized on that submolecular level. And this is where the hydrogen deuterium ratio has a very important role. So we could prove it when we modify the DH ratio in a tissue culture, we simultaneously can modify the expression of hundreds of genes. So it means when the cells modify the DH ratio, and it means at the same time they will interact and they will influence the expression of hundreds or maybe thousands of genes. And this is how it works. And the bacteria, which is only one micrometer, and the DNA is extremely small, so they can organize it on a molecular level. So one protein binds to the DNA, and that can regulate one part of the DNA of the bacteria. But the DNA is so long, so big, so complex in humans that it cannot be organized with a huge, big proteins.
Yes, okay, that is your explanation of why we have to zoom into the submolecular level, which I will be happy to talk about. But I would also like to make a distinguishment, like you studied healthy cells as well as sick cells, cancer cells. So is there a short way to describe the difference between a healthy cell and a cancer cell?
Yeah. Yeah, so the healthy cells can regulate the cell growth. The tumor cells cannot do that.
And cell growth, that means a replication, or because it's not growing bigger, I guess. It is.
No. The question is, there isn't too big difference in the size of the healthy cells and cancer cells. The question is that how frequently can the cells enter and start a new cell duplication?
Yeah, replication.
Healthy cells start it when they need to multiply, and they control. For example, liver size is the same, will not change. Billions of cells are dying every day, and billions of new cells appearing every day, but the whole volume of the liver cells will be the same. In the cancer, in a tumor, first there is one cell which is a little bit different than the other one. And after a couple of months and a couple of years later, they have some mutation or some changing in the diet, changing in the DH ratio, changing in the activity of the mitochondria. They slowly can getting more different from the healthy cells, and it means they are earlier can start a new cell replication. And as they are more frequently start to multiply themselves, slowly they grow, and they can be different from the other, and a small group of cells appear, and that will be the tumor. And the question is, what can trigger, what is the key signal for the cell to start the cell multiplication? Because if we know that, then we know how to treat them and how can we stop their growth.
And you discovered the trigger, I know.
I guess so, yes. Yeah. So the reason that the cancer program has not been solved, that the big pharma and the science is going to find the key on the molecular level. We know a lot of things about the molecular levels and the molecular regulation of the cell growth. We know hundreds of genes having role in cancer development, and they are targeting one by one these genes. But this is not organized by one gene. The cell duplication and the regulation is organized by thousands of genes and their cooperative work to regulate that cell multiplication. So it means if we want to intervene and we want to be successful, we have to target simultaneously all those part of the genome of the molecular mechanism which is involving in the regulation. And this is what we can do with deuterium depletion, because
yeah, so the word is regulation. A healthy cell is able to regulate everything in a proper order, and cancer cells, they are dysregulated, they free themselves from the rules, kind of, and they start to live their own system.
yeah. So I would briefly tell the key issue is that before the cell recommend, okay, we start a new duplication and we will trigger the cell division. That require that the cells have to increase the DH ratio. So
Yeah,
the ratio
goes
up, increasing. If the cells can do that, they can maybe multiply. If they cannot do, they will not multiply.
Yes,
and
that is this threshold principle we are getting to. But can you say something more about this DH ratio? Because you mentioned it a few times. What does it mean?
in a normal water, if we check out 1 million hydrogen, we will find that in our body will be about 145 deuterium out of 1 million hydrogen. This is 145 ppm parts per million. In the ocean, it's 155 ppm. In Hungary, about 142. In Netherlands, in Dutch, for example, it should be maybe 100, 145, 150 maybe, because we are very close to the ocean. Yeah. So this is changing depending on where we are. And the average day concentration in our body is determined by two key factors: what type of water we drink and what type of food we eat. So the water is, okay, it should be about 145 in Hungary. But the food, it can be 150 or 118 or 109 ppm.
Yeah, we will get into that also later, the food.
Yeah, so the reason that the healthy cells is healthy cells because they can control the DH ratio in the cell. And the main reason that they control it because they have a healthy mitochondria. In everybody, the healthy cells are producing deuterium depleted metabolic water in the mitochondria. Because when we eat the food and the mitochondria burn the food to generate the ATP, to generate the energy from the food, they are synthesizing metabolic water. And that water is deuterium depleted. And the question is how depleted. It depends on what is the composition of the diet. The more fat the people eat, the lower will be the deconcentration of the metabolic water.
So the DH ratio is the presence of deuterium in the water. If it's metabolic water or external water, doesn't matter. But it's in fact so the balance between the two, because if it's not deuterium, it's hydrogen, and if it's hydrogen, it's not deuterium. Yeah. So that's how it's a balance.
Yeah, so the final deconcentration in the cell will depends on what the people drink, and what type of water is produced by the mitochondria. Yeah. And depending on the ratio and the amount of this, that will determine the average deconcentration of the cell.
Yeah, because this is where it gets confusing still for me, and I've read about it now so many times. So I try to see in my mind the order in which things happen. There are a few questions like these mitochondria, they need metabolic water. They produce metabolic water. They get damaged by deuterium. But so the production of metabolic water, is it disturbed or sabotaged by deuterium, or is it the other way around?
I understand your question. Yeah, so when we talking about the metabolic water produced by the mitochondria, it means that the hydrogen coming from the carbon source, so from the glucose, amino acids, or lipids. So this is the way how the cells burn the food to carbon dioxide and metabolic water.
Yes, that is the explanation of metabolism, which is creating energy out of food sources and food sources.
Yes. In the mitochondria, they collect the hydrogen, that there is a hydrogen gradients in the membrane in the mitochondria, and when the hydrogen is coming through the membrane managed by the ATPs, that will generate the ATP molecules, which conserve the energy of the food, which was stored in the food. And it is a question whether, we have data that the mitochondria can work much more properly when the D level is lower than 150 ppm or 145 ppm. So both is true, that the mitochondria is producing metabolic water, and that metabolic water and the ATP production is more effective when the deconcentration is not 150 ppm, but 145, 130 ppm, that would be the preferred deconcentration.
Yes. So is it true that that deuterium damages the mitochondria? Because I think I heard you say it is not a different size. Deuterium does not have a different size, only a different.
No.
So I wonder if it is correct that it was also said by other people, like these deuterium molecule for atoms, they are too big for the mitochondria, and then they ruin the machine. So I wonder if that is true, if that is how it works.
So the size of the deuterium nucleus and the hydrogen nucleus must be different, but at that level, I am pretty sure it doesn't count. The hydrogen atom involving the electron part of the atom and the deuterium, the size is exactly the same. The difference is coming from the different vibrational frequency in the bond.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the key issue in that case.
This is a key issue, in fact, and I find it so fascinating. So I wonder if I get into this now or later. Let's do it now, because as you were triggered by Albert St. Georgi, I don't know if I say his name correctly, you were triggered by the word submolecular. And I was triggered by this word of yours, this vibrational frequency of the bond, you say, in the bond, or of the bond. So does that mean that in the end we are talking about energy medicine, about quantum physics, or as I think what they call now is, they call it quantum biology, quantum biochemistry, these words?
Sure.
Yeah,
everything.
We're talking about energy in the end, and of course we are used to name things as if they are things, and we can touch them or see them. But I know this expression from other research, like for well, it doesn't matter. I won't get into that, but it is I think it is essential enough to mention this, that we are looking at energy medicine, and when you introduce this level, what we call submolecular level, that is where we start to talk about energy in more than particles, or not?
We can say that for example, several diseases connected with the damaged mitochondria. Several rare diseases related with the damaged mitochondria. The central nervous system is extremely influenced by the properly working mitochondria, and when there is any damage or any problem with that energy production, that will influence the whole body and all the cells.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is the
that's
other
true.
fascinating aspect, because when you zoom in to that level where everything starts to be energy, and you start to recognize that things can get distorted or go wrong already there, and then you get this cascade of of effects which go
Sure.
down, but it is also like a domino effect. And yes, you can zoom in on different entry points, of course, but it is so essential to get to the root, of course.
Sure. Absolutely right. Yeah.
That's why your research is a game changer in this whole field of medical research, medical understanding. But before I get ahead of myself, because I get all excited, we will get back to this, I'm sure. But I don't want to lose everybody looking and listening. Like, where is she going? I'm going to stick to where we were. So you were talking about the cells and these mechanisms, like two mechanisms that modify this ratio, this DH ratio. And you talk about the membrane, which this is an important factor. And then there's, maybe you want to explain more about this threshold, where the difference between a healthy cell and a cancer cell or a sick cell starts to change, how they behave.
Yeah, so one reason I think that today there are so many diabetic patients, high pressure and cancer, that population diet has been changed in the last 60, 70 years. Used to, people ate much more fat and less carbohydrate, but recently the diet is based on the carbohydrate. So people are saying you have to cover the calorie intake 60-70% by carbohydrate. It means that the mitochondria from the carbohydrate will produce 150 ppm metabolic water, which is not depleted at all. When the mitochondria burning lipids, they will produce 180 ppm deconcentration of metabolic water. And it means that because the people are eating too much carbohydrate, sugar, the average D level is much higher than it was 100 years ago or 70 years ago. And we should reduce that average deconcentration of the people, because that way we should protect the cells against the cancer. The whole metabolic disease, incidence of the metabolic disease would reduced just by changing and lowering the D level. So we have published data with rat study, where we could prove that the insulin signal system work much more properly at 125 ppm deconcentration than 150 deconcentration. So the glucose uptake was much better at 125 ppm. Another study we made with the athletes, then we made a loading test and we followed, for example, how the lactic acid appear in the blood. And we could see that after the athletes consumed deuterium depleted water, then we could delay the appearance of the lactic acid during the loading test, which means that the mitochondria and that athletes were much more properly. And that is the answer, that the mitochondria doesn't like the 150 ppm deconcentration.
You have proven that in many ways, and this cascade of effects, it's only logical that it will give results in many physical processes, biochemical processes, but processes in the body. So if things start to go wrong already at the beginning at cell level, submolecular level, it is only logical that it will change physical processes in our body and this chronic conditioning and all these different illnesses that will appear as a result of that. And in fact, I read about these all these other beneficial effects of deuterium depletion, like local application on skin, or you're still testing that, diabetes, in fact, maybe even, not maybe, even depression, like mental degeneration, not degeneration, maybe, yeah, can I say?
Yeah.
Energy.
The memory,
and also I read about the detoxing effects. Dr. Klinghardt, maybe you know him. Petra Davelaar had, you know Petra Davelaar, of course.
Yeah.
She worked with him as well, and he stated that the deuterium depleted water helped him to finally detox heavy metals from his body that were in there for many years. And he is a detox expert. So even that fact, detoxing will, of course, have many after effects in staying healthy or becoming healthy again after detoxing. But I didn't really hear yet what I was looking for just now. Let me see. You explained, in fact, the production of metabolic water as the result of the kind of nutrients you take in, like the difference between carbohydrates and fats, which is a very important one because everybody is scared of fats, which is a pity. Also for culinary reasons, but yeah, I was very pleased to hear that good fat. And the other interesting thing is that it makes a difference, one fat or the other, quality-wise. It's not just any fat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's very important that you get good quality of fats, and somehow your cells know exactly that there is a difference between a naturally fat animal, for example, or a well-grown olive, or a really good kind of pure kind of butter, what these cows were eating. It shows up in the deuterium levels, so that I find a very beautiful result of also. I know this intuitively. I've been eating as high quality food as long as I can remember because I'm sensitive for flavors and natural food. So I've been choosing this for since I was 20. I got 60 the other Saturday, just now, this month.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
But it's like, and I'm still healthy. I don't need medication or anything. So I'm happy for myself, but also to be able to prove this in a way, which brings me to another subject. So because I'm getting more and more into the healing qualities of water, because I've been in this field of research for quite some years now, and I used to be only interested in everything that prevents people from getting sick, but by now it is clear that water is also very important and helpful in a curative way, in reversing, healing. And what I was going to, let me see. I've noticed that in these fields of research and making this kind of knowledge more popular also, like what you're doing, talking to everybody that is paying attention, that it does take independent researchers like you that find ways to finance themselves and promote the work themselves. These people are needed to bring this into the world, into the people, and also that it needs research in living biological organisms. So the insights cannot be obtained in laboratories alone. These the most revolutionary changes in healthcare come from this kind of studies in practice, in daily life, in living organisms, biological systems. Then it shows what is the difference between, especially in the case of water, one water or the other water. And also what is becoming very clear is that it has to be looked at in relation to the environment, to the ecology, to the and that's the bigger picture also, looking at the bigger picture. And then in combination with zooming in to see this correlation between microcosmos and macro, macro. I wonder if, and so it brought me to the conclusion that true healing means that means living with natural laws, which are biological laws or physical laws, and they are intertwining, of course, logically, because they are separated only artificially. So this means, I think, that the prevention of disease and curing disease work with exactly the same principles. And I wonder if you can relate to that way of looking at it.
Firstly, of course, we focused on to cure diseases. So that was the very first experiment with the mice study, that we transplanted human breast cancer to the mice, and then we replaced the normal water with deuterium depleted water, and we could save the life of the mice, because that way we could reduce the deconcentration of the mice which had been transplanted with human breast cancer. And later people started to consume deuterium depleted water with different kind of cancer, and we could see that the survival was increased, and the tumor the size started to regress. The people get a complete remission when that deuterium depletion was combined with the existing therapy. So in altogether, we can say that we can get a 3 to 10-fold increase in survival when we comparing the different type of cancer and we integrate deuterium depletion to the existing therapy. And the reason that we can get that when a cancer patient start to consume deuterium depleted water, that slowly day by day reduce the D level in the body. And that is a big challenge for all kinds of cells, the healthy cells and the cancer cells. And the good news that because the healthy cells are healthy cells, they can adequately handle that reducing the concentration.
Yeah,
but the cancer cells are in a trouble. And our aim is to trigger them, challenge them, and then we can induce the apoptosis, and then start the tumor necrosis, and then the control MRI and CT can prove that there is a big reduction in the size of the tumor. So this is the way that we can cause a very disbalance in the mitochondria, that cancer cells will generate radicals, and finally that radicals will trigger the necrosis of the given cancer cells. And this is a very important when we are combining deuterium depletion with the existing therapy. Do not take antioxidant, because people are taking and believing that they can take CEA vitamins that will be better. No, we need the radicals. Deuterium depletion generate and trigger the radical generation, and that will kill the cancer cells itself. So our focus is one thing, to make anti-cancer drug for humans.
Okay, let's talk about that, because in a way it is said that deuterium depleted water, DDW, is not a medicine. It is a medicine and it's not a medicine. So I need you to explain this. When it is called vetera for animals, it's a medicine. If it is healing cancer, like really reducing it, curing it, it is a medicine. But on the other hand, we cannot call it a medicine because it is promoted to use together with other treatments. It is helping.
No. There are very, very strict rules how to produce and how to register cancer drugs or any kind of drugs.
I know that. So, but apart from the registration protocols, because that is clear that they are not waiting for a medicine like water, but just to help people understand, is it medicinal, like a medicine that cures cancer, or is it helpful in curing yourself from cancer?
And, so all the data that we have shown, and we followed about 3,000 cancer patients, the 99%, the data is the combination of DDW combining with the existing therapy. We had a couple of papers when the patients rejected the conventional therapy, or the patient didn't have chance to receive conventional therapy. So in that case, we could prove the efficacy of DDW. So alone, the deuterium depletion caused reduction, caused improvement of the cancer patients. So it means that deuterium depletion itself is effective against cancer. But the reason we always talk about that the combination, that we do not, and it is not allowed to ignore the potential which is existing in the existing therapy. So we cannot ignore the operation, we cannot ignore the radiotherapy, the hormone therapy, because we have to use out these treatments also in combination with the deuterium depletion. And on the long term, I hope that that the deuterium depleted water itself will be registered as a drug. And the best way for the patients will be when the combination will be determined, and will be lots of protocol, depending on the type of cancer, depending on the staging, when to and how to give, what type of deconcentration, when to stop, when to start again. So there is a long way to figure out all the details and to work out protocols for different type of cancers. But the deuterium depletion itself effective against cancer, but I never say don't use anything else, just the DDW. I always say we have to maximize the efficacy in combination with the existing therapy.
But no, not all existing therapies. Sometimes it gets counterproductive, right?
That takes time. And of course, when we figure out that which is a good chemotherapy and which is not, then during the times and feedbacks, that will be selected, and we will use up the good combination, of course.
So you don't exclude, yeah, but I was thinking of, like, for example, thermotherapy, the more alternative therapies that people look for. I remember that sometimes you said in email, like, it can be not so wise to do everything at the same time, for example.
Yes.
And some things are counterproductive in the use of DDW, yes?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So that's again, it's a big issue.
It's maybe
which,
also personal, or it's general.
So what we do not offer together with DDW, beside the antioxidant, is the hot water sauna and the strong physical activity. These three, what we do not recommend to combine with DDW. So don't
Also
go running.
vegetarian food, right? Or not? Only
The
plant.
vegetarian food, yeah, we recommend to take proteins, animal source proteins, because when the people are vegetarian, I believe that the cancer cells recognize that they are not able in a good position because no enough amino acid to duplicate the protein mass, so they slow down, and at that time they are not so sensitive for the deuterium depletion. The best for us and for the treatment, when the cancer cells believe that everything is fine, I am ready to multiply, they trigger the cell division, but they will facing with the low D level, and with the lowering D level. That will cause a big change in the metabolism, that will generate radicals, and that will cause the apoptosis of the cancer cell.
Yeah, so I have to correct myself when I was before saying like we are dealing with the same principles in prevention and curing, because what you explain with your research is that you have to understand healthy cells, of course, how do things work, but you also have to understand how cancer cells work, like the intelligence in cancer cells, because I hear you explain several moments in these phases that you can like intervene in how they function. So it's like you trick them. You are one step ahead, to prevent them from doing what they are good in doing.
Yes. Yeah, somehow to adapt. So the cancer, so it is clear that the cancer cells, if the changing of the D level is very slow, then they will adapt, and we will not trigger and will not generate so high concentration of the radicals, which finally trigger the apoptosis. And if there is a huge tumor in the liver, for example, it's very difficult to eliminate the whole tumor, because slowly, week by week, the cells which will multiply 2 months later, they already adapted to the lowering D concentration because they are facing with that for very long time.
Yeah.
So
that is why the protocol is in fact also adapting to the phase, and that a decrease in deuterium can then be prescribed. So
yeah.
that's why you don't take the same kind of level of deuterium depletion all the time.
So this is the reason I published this second book, that we wrote protocols for different type of cancer, different staging, and the combination of conventional therapy. How to reduce, how long you should drink it, when to have a break, when to start it again.
Yeah, it's very precise, in fact, how to deal with this whole. It's a continuous monitoring the stages of everything. And that's also interesting or important to understand when we look at what is necessary for stopping a certain development, reversing a certain development, and really curing the whole because in cancer that is a big subject. Like, are you getting free of cancer, or are you just prolonging lifespan, which you have proven with your research? That is for sure that you can achieve that. But then for real curing, there are, of course, it's a more complex whole.
The first target is that to get a complete regression. This is a very good position for cancer patients if they are tumor-free. Unfortunately, without deuterium depleted water, they have a very big chance to relapse. So when someone is in a remission, and in that remission they are consuming deuterium depleted water on a proper way, that way they can prevent to relapse. And this is the best way, of course, to keep the people in a healthy position. When someone already has a big tumor and we have to get a complete regression, then we combine the DW with the conventional therapy, and when we are lucky, and then when the people use it properly, we can get a big chance to get a complete regression, which wouldn't be possible without DDW.
Mm-hmm. There are two things that come to my mind. I would like to zoom into the use of DDW in prevention, because it is related to this early stage of the growth of cancer cells, as I understood. And the other thing that comes to my mind now, are there doctors in hospitals that are open for collaboration with you? Because I know that you are open to be contacted by patients that want to work with DDW or yeah. But because it is combined with regular treatments, do they always have to come to you, or are there doctors that are in the medical system that are able to work with you?
So there is a big progress if you compare the situation 30 years ago and the position now. There are lots of oncologists who had seen on the patients that something had happened and very strange had happened, but that does not mean that we have a very active communication, and that will not happen. Still, we do not able to register it, deuterium depleted water, as a cancer drug. So they are not in the position that think about and combine it, talk about that type of water, which is a food, should be good to treat cancer. So, and I understand, I accept it, and this is the reason we are working on to get find investor, getting fund, starting new clinical trials, going to EMA, going to FDA, and get the approval. And if we got it, then that will change the whole picture, because after that will be part of the therapy.
So do I understand correctly that you're really aiming to be integrated in the medical world?
From the very first time and for the last. I never give up. Yeah.
But on the at the same time, there is this so-called alternative medical world. And many people or therapists that they work with other insights, other products, other products. You're not collaborating with them as well, or they with you?
We collaborating, but there are, so if we check how many cancer patients are worldwide, it's about 18 million per year, new cancer patients. 8-9 million die.
Oh, I understand.
In that way, that alternative way, we are not able to get to reach them, less than 1% of them. If we want to solve that cancer problem and we want to get access to everybody who has cancer, we have to move to the medical field. We have to educate the oncology. We have to convince the pharma industry that have to develop cancer drugs into that direction.
And are you involved also in this new study in Amsterdam, Deuteronomics, that started in 22?
We are involved in a study supported by the EU. That's Oxford University, Würzburg University, in Lisbon. No, not this one. There is a company from Netherlands who also involved in that consortium, and we are working on to prove and to figure out the ideal deuterium concentration for the healthy population. This is the target of that research, and this is we are working on.
For the healthy population.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for the healthy to stay healthy, we have to have a preventive mindset, right? You have to keep things healthy. So this, and we talk about protocols. So to, as I understood, you say it is useful to use DDW as a cure. We say cure, but I mean cure. It means for a limited time, a few months a year, a therapeutic with a therapeutic, not therapeutic, preventive. DDW used for a few months a year helps prevent the growth of cancer cells, right?
Yeah, for healthy people, we suggest to drink it for 3-4 months every year, every second year, every third year, because that case will be a decrease in D level, and that will trigger those small group of cells, which maybe 5 years later will be so big enough that the patients will be diagnosed, and that way we can eliminate that the origin of the tumor. So, and for healthy population, this is what we recommend. Those who had been treated with cancer and they are in remission, we recommend to drink it almost every year for a couple of months, because they has a much higher risk to relapse than the healthy people.
Yes. Yes, that's good to know. I do it myself, even though I don't intend to get cancer.
You're right. You're right.
I found a nice system to mix it. I have a glass cutoff of 7 liters, and it's a great way to reduce 1 bottle of DDW 25 to a level of 105, 125.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
How did you do it yourself? You explained it to somebody else. Can you say that again?
I stopped drinking Preventa 105 in April. Before that, I drink it for a year. And then I checked my deuterium level. It was 128 ppm. So that was in a good range.
Yeah, it's not the lower the better, right?
No, I don't believe so. And I know I plan maybe I will start to drink DW in September again. And then I drink it.
Break. So you don't get used to it too much, maybe.
What do you mean?
Or do you have a break of 6 months or no?
No, it's maybe 5, 6.
A few months you have a break, and why you do
that? Because if somebody drinking only, let's say 25 or 125 or 105, it means all the cells will be adapt to that level.
Adaptation,
so, So the real challenge for the cells is the change in D concentration. And if you know changes, that for those population, after a couple of years, they have the same chance to get cancer, because all the cells adapted to the 125 ppm. So we have to move it. This is just like the fasting is a very good, has a very positive effect on the metabolism, because we're challenging the cells. No food, no glucose, nothing, and all the metabolites should adapt everything to the fasting. And this is same with the deconcentration. We have to triggering the cells, we have to triggering the genes, the gene expressions. We have to keep them moving.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. And I forgot what I had in mind. Let me see. So we talk about prevention. It is a lot about food. It is also about lifestyle, and that is how we keep ourselves happy. But we also need to decrease deuterium levels to keep ourselves happy, like functioning optimally. or we have to challenge them, as you say, also. So
Yeah.
it's a dynamic process. And to cure or to stop disease or reversing disease, we need to help mitochondria in the cells to function. Is that a summary? And that way to increase lifespan, at least, if the cells are, if you have a lot of unhealthy cells in your body. Is this a summary?
So if we are so lucky that, that we can always eliminate the cancer cells and the origin of the tumor, that is one way to working against aging. But we also think that not only the cancer cells can be killed by deuterium depletion, the elder cells also is challenged by deuterium depletion. So that way we can cause some kind of urination when we are applying deuterium depleted water. We have tested on a skin cream, and it was very effective, and we could reduce the wrinkles and the surface of the skin became
Really?
sure. And we are also working on to get again and that type of product on the market. So we'll be a cosmetic product, and it has a very good effect.
Oh, really? That's interesting, because I already have some cream in Haarlem. Because of my friends, as I told you, this skin.
No, it's another story. Yeah.
It's not the same cream?
No, that will be different. Yeah.
It's different. Oh, okay. I won't put it on any wrinkles then.
You can try it. You can try it.
Okay, then I first have
But you don't have wrinkles.
No. No, in fact, I would have to, if I do it, I will make a picture up front from close up, and then we see if it works.
Okay.
And then you already have a good recipe available. And yeah, I'm very happy with everything we were able to talk about. And please also add something that comes from your core, that what you really wish to, for you as a whole person, not only a scientific mind, but as a heartful person. What would you like to leave listeners and viewers with?
Yeah, so we are going to change the paradigm, and to change the paradigm is not an easy way and not an easy history. And I keep working on it for 30 years. Our company was established 30 years ago. And at the very beginning, I declared that we established that company to register the very best cancer drug for the world. It's a very long way and very struggling. The only thing I can hope that we are getting closer and closer, and one day the world will recognize it, and that will be a big hope for everybody when deuterium depletion will be part of the oncotherapy.
I'm so happy to be part of this.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Thank you very, very, very much. And we will bring this to as much people as possible. And I'm looking forward to our next meeting.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much, Gabor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.